I actually really like this concept. I think once you get the hang of it, it's, I don't know, it's pretty fun. So we're going to jump into exponents. You've seen them before. They're the little number that is above the base, and then that's the exponent. This is nerdy language. This is how they define it. They said the definition of exponential notation means if you have a base or a variable, and there are this many of them, there are n number of them. So if you had 3 of them, your exponent up here would be 3. Okay, in this case, we don't know how many we have, so they give it just a letter n. So this is like the technical version. Let's just kind of talk about what that means. Here we have x to the 4th. Now this should be review over the last few years. Hopefully you've dealt with exponents before. So what that means is x times x times x times x, because we have 4 of them. Okay, not too bad. Now let's do a negative. A lot of people get this confused, so that's where we're going to have to be really careful today. This means there are 3 of whatever is in this parenthesis. Okay, so there is -4 times -4 times -4, because that negative was included in the parentheses. So there were 3 negatives as well. Okay, and if we were to multiply that out, remember 3 negatives, that's an odd number of negatives, so it's going to be negative. And I believe that'll be 64 if we multiply that through. Okay, so now we know what it's like when it's a letter, a negative. How about a fraction? Everybody loves fractions. Well, again, this 4 means there are, I don't know if I would fix that, but really, we want to see parentheses around the whole thing. That was just how my computer typed it. I think I've now figured out how to do it better, so I might print that out or edit this. So what they're saying is there's 4 of what's in the parentheses. So there are 4 1/3. Okay. And if we were to multiply all those through, we multiply straight across. So all of that turns into a 1. Okay. And then we have 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And in case you wanted to know how to do that fast, I don't go 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81, because I don't necessarily know that 27 times 3 is 81. But I do know this, that 3 times 3 is 9. And I know how to do 9 times 9. So I actually did that in my head, and that's how I knew this was 81. I had a trick. Okay? I'm going to take these out from under here so I could write darker. All right, so example 1 tells us to simplify these, okay? Or when they say simplify, it probably means find the answer if you can, if it's not a variable. Okay, so this is a real number, so 3 squared is 3 times 3. It's not 6, it's not 3 times 2, it's 3 times 3. Okay, so be careful. This is 3 times 3 times 3, and remember up here, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Okay, this is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And again, I did that up here, 81. And then this, okay, remember up here, it had parentheses around it, and up and down here it doesn't. So I really want you to study the difference between these two things, because they have different answers. Okay, even though this was a -4. Pretend this was a 3, okay? They're different. This meant that the negative was included and there were 3 negatives. This means that the 4th power only goes to the 3. That negative does not get to play. So the negative stays out here, kind of bummed that he didn't get to have the 4 with it. So this is what that really is. Okay? There was only 1 negative because he was not in parentheses and did not get to be included. This is going to be a trick you fall, or maybe a hazard you fall into, probably more often than not, so be careful. So what that is -81, because there is 1 negative. an odd number of negatives. Okay, so let's try that. Now they're going to put all kinds of confusion. Which ones are included, which ones are not. I want you to try. So pause me and try these. It's better to try and fail, because then you might learn how to do it correctly next time. Okay, so pause and then come back. All right, hopefully you've already done these. This is filled out. Okay, this means there are two, the negative got to play. So this is really what's happening, and that turns into a positive 9. Okay, what's happening here is the negative is included. So it's -3 times -3 times -3. Odd number of negative signs, so it's -27. Okay. This one is, again, included, so -3. That negative got to be taken to the 4th power as well, and so that equals positive 81, because 4 negatives, even number of negative, positive number. Okay, now this might confuse you. This has to wait. This negative out here just has to wait. We have to take care of this first, okay? So let's just put that negative. He's just going to go over here and wait and see if he gets to do anything, okay? You see how I just moved him out there? And then we have, so if you want to, you could just go -3 times -3 times -3. This means the same thing. Different notation. See, I use dots up here. I'm using parentheses here. Okay, so all we do now is this negative weighted. We have 4 -3s, so we know it's going to be 81. We just don't know if it's going to be positive or negative. Well, let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 negatives makes this guy negative. Okay? I'm going to try to stop saying okay so often. We're going to look at number 2, or example 3 on page 2. This might drive you nuts. Look at all this. Some are parentheses, some are not. This is probably annoying. So we got to take it just slow, okay? Slow it down. Let's look at this thing. -3 cubed, okay? Is the negative included in there? No, it's not. So he just stays out in front. And 3 cubed. Do we know what 3 cubed is? 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Okay? And now I'm going to just put this minus there and let it wait. See what happens once we deal with this. This means that we have 2 -3s. See how I took this, what was in this circle, and expanded it to look like that. Okay, and why don't I go and do the same thing with this last one too. That's the same as, we could do it this way, or we could have done, there's so many ways to do multiplication notation, okay? All right, and that's what this was all about. So let's go ahead and simplify what's in those parentheses. -27 minus, -3 times -3 is a positive 9. Remember, it's multiplying because there's a dot in between them. And then plus -2 times -2 is a positive 4. And there we go. -27 minus 9 plus 4. Okay, so -27 minus 9. That means we have a negative and a negative. So they combine and we get a 36. But it's negative, plus 4. Now we have opposite signs. The 36 wins, and we get -32. Okay, here it is again. I said, okay. This one looks even beefier. Let's give that a go. I didn't leave a lot of room. So what this means is we have a -2 to the 2nd power, which is 2 times 2. So negative, let's just do this so you can see it, is what that simplifies to. Okay, minus 4. I'm going to have that one wait. And then we have negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. There are 3 of those. Okay. Minus 2. And then we have 2 of these. The negative is included. Notice in this one, the negative was not included with the exponent, but it was in here and it was in here. Okay. Now we're just going to simplify all that. And that equals negative 4. This is really what that means is negative 4 times 3 times 3 times 3. So let's just do negative 4 times what that turned into is negative 27. Okay. Minus 2. That turns into a positive 4 minus 2. Okay, now I'm going to try and show it to you over here because I'm running into those. Sorry about that. Might need to put more space on here too. I'll edit that. So maybe on your paper this won't look like mine. I'll move it down. Okay, so all I see here now is I have to multiply these two and multiply those two and then just add the line together. Okay, so we have negative 4 and then negative 4 times negative 27 is a plus. Now I don't know what 27 times 4 is, so I'm going to work that out over here on my own. And I get 108. And I could have cheated. I just saw it in my book. 108. And then negative 2 times positive 4 is negative 8 minus 2. All right, now I've got a minus, and minus. So that actually is 10, 14. Negative 14 and a positive 108. Okay, and that is a positive 94 when we're done. All right, so yes, a lot. I'm going to see so many mistakes on this. Unfortunately. So please, please, please be careful. They're going to try and trick you every time. Okay, we're going to switch gears and talk about square roots. Okay, square roots is kind of like opposite of exponents. So let's. Basically the book talks a little bit about it. About what these are called, actually. The vocabulary. What we call, we're used to saying this as the square root sign. It's actually a radical. This symbol is called a radical. Okay? And if there is a number in here, there's like a 2, that's called the index. And that tells you how many bases you have. Okay, we'll talk about that. We'll just show you and make more sense. And then whatever number we're getting, so let's say we put 16, this is called the radicand. Okay, so they're not always this is square root of 16. But right here, where it says that's a 4, that's the 4th root of 81. Okay, so let me put that in normal English so that it makes sense to you. Square root of 9 means what times itself twice makes a 9. Which number times itself 2 times? So like 2 times 2 is 4, so that's not going to work. 3 times 3 is 9. There it is. It is 3. Okay. I'm peeking ahead if they're talking about positive or negative. How about this? Sometimes negative 3 times negative 3 equals positive 9. So we say that negative 3 is the negative square root of 9. I think you can look at this in your book. I don't want to overcomplicate it for today, so let's just leave it at that. This means what number times itself 4 times equals 81. Meaning this, really. This times this times this. So there's 4 numbers. 4, and they're all the exact same, and they equal 81. This times this times this times this have to equal 81, and that will be the answer. And we've done this a lot. In the first page, it's actually 3, right? 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. So the 4th root of 81 is 3. Okay, now we're going to talk about the same thing, but a negative in front. Okay, when they put a negative in front, it just says what's the negative square root of 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. So let's put a negative in front of it. Okay, the fourth root of 81 is 3. Let's put a negative in front of it. All right, I want you to try these. See if you can figure this one out. This is going to be weird because you see a negative sign under there, and I'll talk to you about why that's okay. So pause and give it a shot, and then let's go ahead and try. Okay, so hopefully you've tried, and I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, when there's no number here, it means it's, when they don't show it, it's just invisible too. When it's not, when they don't specify it's different, it's always a 2. Okay, so it's the square root of 64, and that is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Okay, this means what times itself 4 times equals 16. So meaning this, so there's 4 of them. And sometimes until you get used to this, or used to common ones that they use, you might have to try something. Like, well, we know that 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. So that's not going to help us. So it's got to be smaller than that. Let's try 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 4, 8, 16. So there we go. Our answer is 2, is the fourth root of 16. Okay, the third root of negative 27. What that means is what number times itself 3 times make 27? Negative 27, not positive 27. So how about this? We know it's 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, right? How about this? But they have to be all the same. So if they're all negative, do we get a negative 27? Yes, we do, because 1, 2, 3. So we can get a negative under there. We can only have negatives under here if this number here must be odd for there ever to be a negative under the radical. Okay, this one, the negative is not under the radical. They're just saying what's the and that's actually, oh, I thought it was the same one up there. The square root of 81 is 9. So they're saying negative 9 is the answer to that one. Okay, switching again from roots to, this is called evaluating numbers with power. So again, remember I talked about parentheses being very important. Where you see a letter, replace it with parentheses. And there might be an exponent outside of it. So now I have that, and I'm going to put, it says A is negative 2, so I put that in there. And what that means is I have 2 negatives 2's. So that's negative 2 times negative 2, which is a positive 4. Okay, this one looks similar, and it's going to be very confusing. But again, a parenthesis where the letter is only. Okay, so do you see how the negative was in front of the letter? There we go. And now I put this in here, and that's going to make your eyeballs hurt a little bit. We have a negative, negative squared. Okay, so again, we cover that. We deal with this first. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4, right? And then that negative comes down from here. Okay, didn't get to play, just ends up in the answer. I'm going to see a lot of mistakes on these types. Happens a lot, trust me. Okay, again, negative. There we go. Okay, and we put the negative 2 in there. And what that means is negative, so that this negative comes down. And then we have a negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So all I know is that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. So that turns into a positive. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I wrote 4. I think because I said I have 4 negatives. Turns into a positive, and 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Positive 8 is what that turns into. Okay, you'll get used to knowing that 2 cubed is 8. Okay. Negative 2 cubed is negative 8, but we have a negative in front of it. I know. Confusing. Okay, this is even more confusing because the negative is in there and we need to use parentheses for the letter, right? So what I do is write exactly the same, put a parenthesis where the letter was. You see that? I copied everything and then put a parenthesis just where the letter A was. Instead of writing A, I put open parentheses. Then I'm going to go back in and fill it in. And that is irritating. But I want you to notice this. These parentheses on the outside in this exponent, because it's farthest out, we have to deal with this first. Not the 3. We just deal with what's in there, okay? Negative, -2, right, is a positive 2. And then to the 3rd power. And the answer to that is positive 8. Okay. All right. Take a breath. Pause it if you need to go. Let your brain breathe for a second. I understand these are weird, different, new. All right. Evaluate x squared, z cubed, y. And x is going to be 2, z is 3, and y is -2. So again, parentheses where I see a letter. Okay. And let's go ahead and put in the parentheses, which should be there. So a 2 for the x, a 3 for the z, and a -2 for the y. And then we're going to simplify this. So this goes with that, the 3 goes with the 3, and nothing happens to the -2. You just have to wait. So let's take care of these. That's 4. 2 squared is 4. 3 cubed is 27, and -2. And what does this mean? It just means 4 times 27 times -2, okay? Our answer, let's just deal with the negative right now. There's one negative in this, and so the answer is going to be negative in multiplication, right? And then back before I did some math and found out that 27 times 4 is 108, okay? That's on my paper because I did the long math up above, okay? So now I want 108 times 2. Okay, well what I do is a little trick. Double 100 is 200. Double 8 is 16. And there's my answer on that one. I like to use tricks when I can to make things happen faster. Okay, one more example and then you're free to try these practices, okay? This one is another evaluate. So go ahead and parentheses where there was a variable. Should look like that. And we have p is 1, m is -4, and z is -2. So yes, this is going to get complicated. Now this out here, a 1 times anything is like does nothing. Remember, it's the identity property of multiplication. So like he's going to become like worthless, not going to do any. So this is technically just, that's the question now. The 1 just taking up space, okay? So we could do, okay, this -4 squared, we have 2 -4s. Okay, so that means a positive 16 times 1, so we get a 16. Okay, now I'm going to leave the negative, this sign, but deal with this negative. -2 cubed, well I know 2 cubed is 8. So if I have 3 -2's, I'm going to have a -8. Okay, and now when I have a minus minus, that's the same as 16 plus 8. So we get 24. Okay, now go ahead and do the practice and then come back if you get stuck. Okay, and go. So we have 4. Here we don't have 2 -2's. We have a negative and 2 2's, which is a negative. One negative is going to be a negative answer. Okay. This one, we have a -27. And then minus, so we have 2 -2's, so that's positive 4 is what happened with the parentheses, minus 4. Okay, so -27 minus 4 minus 4, those are all minuses. So we're going to have a minus, and we just add them all up. 27 and 8 is 35. Okay. This is the third root of negative 64. So since this negative is under here and it's a negative index, I know that my answer is going to be a negative number. Okay. Negative, what times itself 3 times is 64. Well, 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4, I'm just showing it for you, is 64. So when we multiply 4 times 4 times 4, we get 64. So the answer to the root is negative 4. Okay, now we've got a mix of everything. We have negative 3 cubed. Okay, that means we have 3 negatives. So we're going to have a negative. And we have 3 cubed, which is 27. Okay. The cube root of negative 27. Well, like I said, if this is odd and this is negative in here, then we have a negative root. Okay. And I think we decided that 3 is the cube root of, we call that a cube root of 27. So there we go. And then that answer, we have negative 27 and a negative 3, so we get negative 30. Okay. Here we are here. We only have 1 negative and 2 3s. So that is negative 9. Again, this is, if you got a positive 9 here, you're not alone. Don't mix it up with if there were parentheses around that. They're not parentheses. Whoa. They're not parentheses around that. So I throw my pen. So we let it be. It's a negative. Okay. Minus, now I'm going to deal with the cube root of negative 8. Again, here I'm going to just put the answer in there because we have a minus here. Negative and a odd root, so it's negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. Okay? And then this is the square root of 16, which is 4. I want you to know your square roots pretty good, your perfect squares. Okay, so what that is negative 9 plus 2 minus 4. Simplify that, and we get negative 7 minus 4 is negative 11. Okay. Last two, evaluating. I know this is a long lesson, but hopefully you've hung in there. Like I said, you can always take a break. Don't take too long of a break because you might not come back, and that would hurt my feelings. Okay. Oh, Z and Y were the same. I'm looking back at that. I feel like I must have written that one wrong. Nope, they're the same. I peeked in the book. Okay, so these are all multiplied together. Notice there's no plus or minus in between, so that's not an addition problem, just multiplying. So we're going to multiply 3 squared times negative 2 to the third power. So we have 3 negatives. So we have negative 8, okay, times negative 2. So I don't know why I put a dot there. I could have just stuck the 9 on the outside. So to get used to all of this stuff meaning the same thing. Okay. So, should we do 9 times 8 first? That is 72. But I know my answer is going to be positive because I have 2 negatives in this. So 72 times 2, double 70 is 140. So there we go. Okay. The last one, b squared minus 4ac. This is going to come up a lot later. Negative 4 squared, meaning you're going to see b squared minus 4ac a lot as you continue in math. We're not going to tell you what it is today, though. It probably wouldn't mean anything to you if I did. Okay, so here we are. 2 negatives, because that negative got to play, giving us a positive 16. And what this means is these 3 things multiplied together, and I see there are 3 negatives, so it's going to be minus. And I'm going to do 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 3 is 60. So we have 16 minus 60. So the negative 60 wins, and we're going to take 16 away from 60, and I believe that is 44. You might need to double check my work, but that happens. I do make mistakes. Okay, there you are. I'm going to stop talking. Good luck. Call me, email, text, whatever you need. Have fun.